Last year at Computex 2023, I was at ASRock's booth looking at some of their monitors, and I didn't see any OLED. And that was my biggest critique. I said, guys, you've got to bring OLED because it is just the absolute best, especially if someone has the budget to afford one of the better gaming experiences. And this year, ASRock have taken that recommendation on board, and they are going to be releasing 3 new OLED monitors coming out in the next couple of months. And what we got right behind us here is actually 2 new LG models and a Samsung model. Now, you've got a gloss panel versus the matte panel or the semi-gloss panel, and I've actually done a demonstration here in slow motion so you can see the differences in real time in a well-lit environment. However, me personally, I prefer the glossy OLED panel because I don't game in a well-lit environment. But if you're in a massively well-lit environment, you'll just see that AMD logo is just being diffused on the LG panel much better than it's being diffused on the Samsung panel. So that's the biggest difference there. But also, these two 27-inch models, we'll go over them for you guys. We got here the PG027 QFS. This is the Samsung model, the 240 Hz 27-inch QHD panel. And this has got that gloss panel, as we said before. But then beside that, you've got the LG, which is going up to 360 Hz. It's got a 0.3 millisecond response time, as well as a HDR peak of 1300 nits. But when we're looking at the brightness, we mainly want to look at the SDR typical, which is 275 nits. Now, all the ASRock OLED monitors are going to support Type-C ports with PD output, so you can charge up to 60 watts from any of these models, as well as having their own flavor of stand and aesthetics and 3-way adjustable. Now, beside the QFS, we've got the QFV. And this is going to be the LG panel with that semi-gloss coating, but also 360 Hz. Now OLED, again, just like the Samsung model, you are going to have a 0.3 millisecond gray to gray best case response time. But even then, when I put 1000 Hz on these monitors, I always get under 1 millisecond response times, which is absolutely phenomenal. Not to mention the colors, the viewing angles, and everything else OLED has to offer. But also, this model has a 250 nits, typical brightness, and 1000 nits maximum. Now, the last thing about the OLED monitors is they all have Wi-Fi antennas included. So if you're like me and you constantly lose your Wi-Fi antenna and you want to use Wi-Fi, you can just actually plug it in from your monitor and you'll get Wi-Fi from the built-in antennas from the monitor. Microphone Maximus OLED self-protecting care, which is something you probably want to know about if you're buying an OLED. And in this case, these are still not finalized. So for instance, the OSD on this particular PG032 UFS2B, it's a lot to say. So when I went into the menu, there's 2 different forms of OLED burn-in protection, which is good. And then you've also got KVM switches built into all of the OLEDs that are going to be released. So that was 2 details that I wasn't told here, but then I just checked in the OLEDs themselves and I was able to find. So pretty interesting that they're going to have essentially the full-fledged suite of features that you'd want, not just from the panel, but also the model itself. This right here is what I think I need to start bringing to Computex, because right now I've got, I think it's like a 9.7 liter PC, but this right here is 700 milliliters. That's right, 0.7 liters. So we're not even in the liters phase anymore. We're just going down to something so small, so light as well. And they're making this a special design, and the name of this is the Mars 1335U. Now they're using an Intel mobile CPU instead of using a desktop CPU because of not just the power savings, which you can also plug from, say, a monitor's PD port, because it only has a 60 watt maximum and the CPU itself only uses up maximum of 28 watts. But also they can make a smaller design by utilizing a laptop CPU with especially SO-DIMM memory. Now for the inputs and outputs, they're actually not too shabby. Of course, you got that Thunderbolt port on the back as well as a Type-C at the front, so you can expand to extra USB ports if you wish to. But they've also included the SD slot for guys like me who use an SD memory card because they're on a budget and they're using, say, an entry-level prosumer camera rather than going out and spending the big bucks. So this little 700mm model will be released next month in July, so do stay tuned for that one if you're looking for 700mm. But if you want to step things up to a desktop CPU, you want a bit more power, and you don't care about PD ports for powering the whole device, you can then step it up 300 milliliters to a 1 liter size, in the form of the Jupiter H610. So what makes this so different, I guess, rather than so special, is that you've got a desktop CPU coming in with the 12th or 13th or 14th gen support. And you've got a lot more connectivity versus the Mars 1335U. So basically more native support on board, but a little bit more power consumption, and you can't utilize that PD power charging port, but that means you probably won't have to use extenders like you otherwise would with the Mars if you need that extra connectivity. Now the last one, let's go over to the AMD option here, the Jupiter X600. Same 1 liter form factor, but this time around, if you're using an AM5 CPU, ASRock have made it so that you can get the USB 4 support out of it via a firmware update that they have done uniquely themselves. So if you were just using, say, an 8600G, you'd only be able to get USB 3.2 natively from the CPU. But ASRock have made it so that you can get USB 4 now connectivity with this little box right here, and you've also got the same connectivity that you do with the Intel option. But in my opinion, I believe the 8600G or something like the 8700G would be a perfect solution for a little box like this to get the most out of it. Though in terms of pricing and release dates, I'll put it up on the screen for you guys. Essentially, the Jupiter H610 is already hit the market, and the X600 will hit the market at the end of this month. And then the Mini Mars here, that's going to hit next month. And that about wraps it up for our OLED and mini computer coverage here for ASRock for 2024 Computex. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button and let us know in the comments section below what you would like to see more of here at this event, or if you have any questions, just ask them down below. Now there's also a new monitor coming in the form of an IPS panel. It's a 520 Hz solution, but I didn't really focus on this because me personally, if I was going for something like this at 520 Hz IPS, I'd much rather just go out and get the OLED version for the much better response times and 40 Hz less. So I don't know about that one. It's the world's fastest IPS gaming monitor, but I think OLED now for these higher end solutions, for me personally, is a better solution. I would much rather game on that. But if you want something that IPS for maybe more brightness while you're gaming, and you don't mind sacrificing a bit of response times, then perhaps this monitor could be an option for you if you're a competitive gamer. Anyhow guys, with all that aside, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.